As she navigated the winding roads, the weight of the old man's frailty filled the car, a simple favor that would unravel into something far more complex. Little did she know, his grandson, a powerful CEO, was poised to return, setting the stage for an unexpected confrontation that would change everything. Rain lashed against the windshield, with the fury of 1,000 desperate hands, while the wind screamed through the treacherous mountain bends, a fierce warning to any soul brave enough to venture forth. Elena clenched the steering wheel, her eyes narrowing as she fought to see through the haze. The ancient delivery van groaned with each twist of the road, its feeble headlights struggling to pierce the dense shroud of darkness and rain. Exhausted, drenched, and famished after a grueling day of delivering fresh pastries, she pushed through the last stretch, her home just within reach. Suddenly her eyes caught a flicker, a cascade of sparks dancing in the shadows, a subtle yet captivating glow that beckoned her closer. Her heart raced as she turned the corner, her gaze locking onto a car overturned and precariously tilted against the guardrail, a scene that sent a chill down her spine. Smoke curled upward in a haunting spiral, merging with the tempestuous sky, while one of the headlights sputtered weakly, reminiscent of a firefly's final flicker before darkness claimed it. Elena's heart raced, a sudden jolt of fear gripping her chest. In an instant, she slammed the brakes, her heart racing as the world around her blurred into chaos. Her tires screeched as they lost traction, but with a fierce determination, she wrestled the van to a halt. In a heartbeat, she flung the door open and jumped out, slamming it shut with a resounding thud. Cold rain pelted her face, drenching her jacket, jeans, and shoes in an instant, yet she sprinted toward the mangled car. "Is anyone there?" Her voice pierced through the howling tempest, a desperate cry against the fury of the storm. "Can you hear me now? Is anyone inside?" A low, muffled groan echoed in response, tangible and haunting. She crouched beside the shattered passenger side window, her heart racing as she caught sight of him. A man, frail and elderly, his body slumped across the seat, a faint trickle of blood visible on his temple. His chest rose and fell, each breath a fragile whisper in the stillness. He was held captive by the unyielding grip of the seatbelt. "Oh my God," Elena gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. "Hold on tight. I'm coming to rescue you." His eyes flickered open, heavy with the weight of pain and shrouded in confusion. "Please, don't let me die here," he rasped, his voice barely cutting through the relentless downpour and the fading strength that threatened to consume him. Elena's voice quivered, yet it remained resolute. "Tonight is not your end. You will survive this. I've got you. Just trust me." The door stood resolute, refusing to yield. With each attempt, her determination faltered, and finally a scream of frustration erupted from her lips. Her eyes swept across the debris-strewn ground, landing on a thick metal rod, unmistakably a remnant of the wreckage that lay scattered around her. With every ounce of her strength, she forced it between the door and the frame, straining against the resistance with every muscle in her body. Silence enveloped the space, a void where sound dared not tread. An emptiness so profound, it seemed to pulse with a life of its own, waiting, watching, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation of what might come next. With a piercing scream that echoed through the night, she stepped back, her heart racing, and with a fierce determination, brought the rod crashing down onto the driver's side window, shattering the glass into a million glittering shards. Shards of glass cascaded around her, each fragment a cruel whisper of danger as they cut into her hand. Yet, she brushed aside the searing pain, driven by a fierce determination that propelled her forward. With trembling hands, she plunged into the depths of the car's interior, battling the stubborn seatbelt that held her captive. Time stretched endlessly as she wrestled with the clasp, her heart pounding in her chest, until finally, with a triumphant click, it released its grip. The acrid scent of gasoline enveloped her senses just as the distant crackle pierced the silence. No, a fierce spark ignited beneath the battered hood, crackling with an energy that promised chaos. The smoke swirled and thickened, enveloping everything in a suffocating embrace. Elena's heart raced, leaping into her throat, fueled by a surge of panic and unwavering determination. She wrapped her arms around the man's shoulders and pulled him backward, away from the looming threat of the car. She panted, her feet slipping and sliding on the treacherous ground. They had barely cleared 10 feet when a deafening boom shattered the air behind them. The car burst into flames behind them, the heat pressing against their backs as they stumbled forward. Debris erupted into the sky, the searing heat clawing at her back. With unwavering determination, she threw herself in front of the man, a fierce guardian against the impending danger. As the ringing in her ears subsided, the world around her fell silent, leaving only the sound of her own ragged breaths and the faint, fragile whisper of his voice. You stand at the edge of a precipice, the wind howling around you, carrying whispers of secrets long buried. Below, the abyss yawns, a dark void that seems to pulse with a life of its own. Every heartbeat echoes in your ears, a reminder of the choice that lies before you. Will you take the leap into the unknown, or retreat to the safety of the familiar? The air crackles with tension, and the world holds its breath, waiting for your decision. You rescued me from the depths of despair. You're not out of the woods yet. She gasped, her chest rising and falling with each labored breath. Promise you'll stay by my side, all right? She dashed back to her van, flung open the rear doors, and snatched the heavy picnic blanket she relied on during her fleeting moments of respite. With urgency, she wound the fabric around him, pressing it firmly against the gaping wound on his head. Her heart raced as she guided him into the passenger seat, every moment heavy with tension. Elena slid into the driver's seat, her heart racing as she turned the key, whispering a desperate plea. She gripped the steering wheel, the engine's roar echoing in her ears as she sped down the winding road. As the storm unleashed its fury, she navigated the treacherous descent, the rain lashing against the windshield like 1,000 tiny daggers. Her hands trembled on the steering wheel, adrenaline coursing through her veins, as she pushed the limits of speed, daring the road to challenge her resolve. Arthur, the man whose name had slipped from his lips like a secret, hovered between the realms of awareness and oblivion. She spoke to him relentlessly, with each passing mile and every fleeting minute, her voice weaving a tapestry of connection that filled the air between them. You're doing wonderfully, Arthur. Just a little farther. The promise of what lay ahead beckoned, a whisper of adventure lingering in the air. Do not leave my side. The emergency room sign flickered in the tempest, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Elena veered sharply into the drop-off lane, her finger pressing down on the horn with urgency, summoning the staff to rush out in a flurry of motion. Emergency trauma, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. An elderly man in his late 70s lies motionless, a head injury casting a shadow over his fragile form. The specter of possible internal bleeding looms ominously, threatening to unravel the delicate threads of his life. He found himself in the aftermath of a devastating wreck. Medical staff swarmed the van, their urgency palpable as they extracted Arthur and carefully loaded him onto a stretcher. Elena staggered backward, drenched, covered in grime, blood trickling down her skin and her body shaking uncontrollably. A nurse pivoted towards her, eyes filled with urgency. Do you belong to my bloodline? No, she declared, her voice steady and resolute. Just a solitary figure who stumbled upon him. What shall we call the report? With a moment's pause, she finally shook her head, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. It holds no significance, only save him. She didn't pause for an answer. Instead, she pivoted and stepped into the downpour, the rain enveloping her like a shroud. With a heavy thud, the van's door sealed her inside, and as she pulled away, the headlights devoured her form, leaving only shadows in the night. She pressed forward, never glancing back. Fate had woven a tapestry of chance, and she found herself unprepared for the moment their paths would cross once more. She had always believed she was alone, hidden away in the shadows of her own making, never imagining that someone would dare to seek her out. In the chaotic pulse of the emergency room, nurses propelled Arthur through the double doors, their voices slicing through the air as they shouted out vital signs. Doctors barked urgent commands, their voices cutting through the chaos. Elena stood at the precipice, drenched and quaking, her garments plastered to her body, her bloodied hands trembling from the biting cold and surging adrenaline. A nurse stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Ma'am, we require your name to complete the report. Elena's head swayed gently, a silent refusal echoing in the air. I don't belong to this family. yet her voice held a quiet intensity as she urged, "Just save him." The nurse paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, before finally giving a reluctant nod. "We will stop at nothing to achieve our goal." Elena offered a fleeting smile before turning away, her expression shrouded in mystery. She slipped away silently, gliding past the front desk and stepping into the relentless downpour. Her van loomed in the darkness, steam curling into the chilly night air. She slipped into the car, her forehead pressing against the steering wheel as she gasped for breath, the weight of the world resting heavily on her shoulders. Her heart raced wildly, yet a whisper of tranquility began to unfurl within her chest. She had made the choice that felt undeniably right. The drive home stretched out in a heavy silence, each mile echoing with unspoken thoughts. Her hand pulsed with pain from the jagged cuts, each throb a reminder of the struggle she had endured. The memory of the crash lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. Later, she would tend to the wounds. In this moment, all she craved was to vanish into thin air. Upon returning to her apartment, she was enveloped by a damp chill that clung to the air. She slipped into dry clothes, her body heavy with exhaustion, and collapsed onto her bed, her gaze fixed on the ceiling above, lost in thought. No one would ever uncover the truth of her actions. No reporters would dare to show up. No one at the bakery dared to inquire. She would arrive the following morning, just as she always did. In the shadows of the bustling city, there was Elena, the delivery girl whose silence spoke volumes. With every pedal of her bike, she carried not just packages, but the weight of kindness, slipping extra donuts into the hands of the homeless man on 3rd and Main. A small act that shimmered like a beacon of hope in the urban chaos. She sought no accolades. All she needed was to hold on to the belief that the man had truly existed. In the depths of the night, she was engulfed in a dream of flames, a haunting voice echoing through the darkness, begging, "Don't let me die here." She stirred from her slumber before the first light of dawn, a weight pressing on her heart, and set out for work. At the break of dawn, she stood in the bakery, sleeves rolled up, her bandaged hand concealed beneath a glove, ready to face the day. No one dared to inquire. Silence enveloped her, a heavy shroud that spoke volumes in its stillness. The world continued its relentless spin. That fateful afternoon, she approached the curve where everything had changed forever. The car had vanished, leaving the road eerily pristine. Silence enveloped the scene, broken only by the rustle of leaves, as if the world held its breath. Devoid of smoke or wreckage, life settled back into its familiar cadence, with the dawn breaking softly over early mornings, the hushed whispers of deliveries echoing in the stillness, and the long, shadowy nights stretching endlessly ahead. Yet, there were moments when Elena's thoughts wandered back to him. The man whose panic was palpable, whose grip was firm, and whose eyes conveyed a silent message that lingered in her mind. She clung to the fragile thread of hope that he had made it through. She vanished from the hospital, leaving no trace, no call to be heard. Some acts, she felt, were destined to echo in the shadows, forever shrouded in silence. For Elena, kindness was a quiet act, a whisper in the chaos, never seeking the spotlight or the sound of clapping hands. It was a choice, one she made, yet the moment she turned her back, the weight of her decision hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Unbeknownst to her, in a distant high-rise office, a relentless search was set into motion. A man, fueled by an unyielding resolve, embarks on a perilous journey to uncover the fate of the girl who vanished into the tempest, her bravery lighting the way as flames flicker ominously behind her. As Arthur Blackwood's eyes fluttered open, the harsh glare of the sterile white ceiling loomed above him, a stark reminder of his uncertain reality in the confines of a hospital room. The second was the faint haze of an IV line snaking into his arm, and the third was a nurse hovering above him, her smile radiating a soothing sense of relief. "You're awake, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice laced with a warmth that cut through the haze of his consciousness. "Fortune smiles upon you." He blinked slowly, his eyelids heavy as if weighed down by the shadows of his dreams. With a deep breath, he fought against the pull of exhaustion, muscles trembling as he struggled to push himself upright. A sharp pain throbbed through his ribs, radiating down his side like a relentless tide. His head pounded relentlessly. The echo of chaos surrounding him, a cacophony of shouts and the crackling of flames. His heart raced as he struggled to piece together the fragments of his fading consciousness, each moment slipping away like sand through his fingers. What had happened? Where was he? The air was thick with tension, and a sense of dread loomed over him like a storm cloud ready to burst. Her presence lingered like a haunting melody, drawing attention and igniting curiosity in every heart that crossed her path. A girl stood alone. "Where is she?" he rasped, his voice a low, urgent whisper that cut through the silence like a knife. The nurse furrowed her brow, a flicker of confusion dancing in her eyes. "Who is it?" A girl stood alone. "The one who rescued me from the depths." She stood before me, vibrant and full of life, her brown hair cascading around her shoulders. In that moment, she became my lifeline. The nurse's expression transformed, a gentle warmth flickering in her eyes. "Sir, you arrived alone with no one by your side. They abandoned you in the emergency bay, leaving us in the dark before we could even learn her name." Arthur shut his eyes tightly, yet tears began to gather, threatening to spill over from beneath his heavy lids. She turned away, leaving gratitude unspoken in the air. The nurse's voice was soft yet heavy with meaning. "She might have saved your life," she added, her words hanging in the air like a fragile thread of hope. "No," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, laden with unspoken weight. "She saved far more than that." 3 days later, Ethan Blackwood emerged from the sleek confines of his private jet, greeted by the biting chill of a cold gray morning. His phone vibrated incessantly, a relentless barrage of emails, meeting reminders, and investor inquiries. Yet he turned a deaf ear to the chaos surrounding him. His purpose burned like a relentless flame within him. The hospital's call was short, yet it carried a weight of urgency that sent chills down the spine. His grandfather had emerged from the jaws of death, a survivor of a near-fatal crash that had changed everything. The identity of the driver remained a mystery, but it was the haunting voicemail from Arthur that lingered in his mind, echoing through the fog of his recent awakening. From the flames, she emerged, a stranger named Ethan, pulling me back from the brink. She never inquired about my identity, showed no interest in my wealth. Instead, she boldly put her life on the line. She is my lifeline, the reason I stand here today. Arthur Blackwood was a man of quiet resolve, never one to embellish the truth. He was sharp, iron-willed, and rarely emotional, yet there was an unmistakable tremor in his voice that pierced through his stoic facade. A profound tremor had unsettled him to his core. "You must find her," Arthur had insisted. "Make sure to express our gratitude to her, for both of us." Ethan had never heard his grandfather's voice tremble with such fragility, nor had he ever sensed such unwavering certainty. Compelled by an unshakable instinct, he made his way there. He rushed to the hospital, urgency propelling him forward. The doctors laid out the grim details before him. Arthur lay in the hospital bed, the weight of his injuries pressing down on him like a heavy fog. A concussion clouded his thoughts, while the sharp pain of 2 broken ribs reminded him of the fragility of life. Despite the minor internal bleeding that had threatened to spiral out of control, a flicker of resilience ignited within him. He was on the mend, but the journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The crash unfolded on a desolate mountain road, far from civilization, just beyond a small town that lay 2 hours away. The emergency room staff had desperately attempted to track down the mysterious woman who had brought him in, but she had vanished into the night, leaving no trace, no name behind. There was no security footage. Ethan's voice dripped with frustration as he demanded an answer. The receptionist's head shook slowly, a silent refusal that hung heavy in the air. She arrived amidst the fury of a rainstorm, the clock ticking towards midnight. "Last month, our exterior cameras fell victim to destruction. Yet, she was the one who brought him to this place?" He pressed on. There must be something lurking in the shadows. A nurse recounted a sighting of a blue delivery van. The receptionist chimed in. An aging relic, marred by a deep dent on its side. A new beginning unfolded. Ethan dedicated the following day to meticulously tracking down traffic cameras positioned along the nearby roads. With his security team by his side, he pored over the grainy footage, tension mounting with each passing second. Then, like a beacon in the darkness, they finally spotted it. A battered blue van, creeping into the hospital parking lot, shrouded in mystery and foreboding. The plate shimmered faintly in the shadows, just enough to hone in on its elusive presence. They followed the clues to a quaint bakery nestled in a sleepy little town. As Ethan stepped into the shop the following morning, the aroma of fresh bread and cinnamon enveloped him, striking like a vivid memory from the past. The atmosphere was inviting, filled with the charm of aged wooden counters and the personal touch of handwritten signs that whispered stories of the past. The sharp clang of a bell echoed through the air as he stepped inside. Behind the counter, a young woman with kind eyes and weary shoulders wiped her hands on a flour-dusted apron, the weight of the world resting on her frame. He squinted at the grainy footage, his heart racing as he searched for clarity. It took a moment, but when the image sharpened, certainty washed over him. There was no doubt. She was unmistakable. Her gaze shot upward, a flicker of surprise igniting in her eyes at the sight of him. "Greetings. How may I assist you today?" Ethan edged forward, his heart racing with an unsettling rhythm. "I'm searching for someone," he said, his voice laced with caution. "A woman who rushed my grandfather to the hospital after a devastating crash." In the stillness of the night, a blue van sat ominously in the shadows, and then, without warning, it erupted in a fiery explosion. Her face drained of color, lips parting in astonishment, yet silence enveloped her. "His name is Arthur Blackwood," he continued, his voice low and deliberate, as if unveiling a secret that could change everything. He came perilously close to death. A woman, fearless and resolute, reached into the depths of danger, pulling him from the brink and sacrificing her own safety to ensure his survival. Ever since that fateful moment, he's been searching for her, his longing echoing in the silence of his heart. Silence lingered in the air, yet her eyes ignited with a spark. Was it recognition or something deeper, an unspoken emotion that hung between them? "Could it have been you?" Ethan whispered gently. Elena's gaze dropped, her fingers nervously twisting the fabric of her apron. "I never sought gratitude for my actions. I'm not here to offer thanks," he declared, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "I stand before you, driven by the words of my grandfather, a man who has weathered the storms of war, endured the agony of loss, and triumphed over business battles that would leave most trembling. He told me that you didn't merely save his life. You restored his very heart." Elena's throat tightened as she swallowed, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "He told me," Ethan continued, his voice steady yet soft, "that he hadn't experienced that level of human kindness in years. You reminded him of what truly matters, and now he longs to see you. Not as a debt, not as charity, but simply as a man who wishes to express his gratitude." The bakery lay shrouded in silence, a stillness that enveloped the air, pierced only by the low hum of an aging fridge and the gentle flicker of the neon open sign, casting its glow through the window. "I didn't even know his name," Elena whispered, her voice barely breaking the heavy silence that surrounded them. "You understand it now," Ethan responded, his voice steady, "and he knows that yours holds significance." It was the dawn of an uncharted journey, a moment neither could articulate, yet both felt it pulse between them. Some rescues carve deep scars into the soul, while others sow the seeds of hope and renewal. Ethan Blackwood thrived on the thrill of uncovering truths, whether in the high-stakes world of business, the intricate dance of negotiations, or the tumultuous storms of corporate crises. He had always taken pride in his precision and control, yet this moment felt like stepping into uncharted territory. He was pursuing a phantom that his steadfast grandfather, the indomitable Arthur Blackwood, had claimed transformed his existence, not through wealth, nor through power, but through a deed so selfless, so profoundly human, that it had etched an everlasting impression on his soul. With a fierce determination, she yanked me from the inferno of the car. "Ethan," Arthur had recounted, his voice a strained whisper yet thick with reverence. Without a word, she swooped in to rescue me and vanished just as quickly, leaving Ethan haunted by the moment. He couldn't shake the image of his grandfather, gazing out the window, lost in thought. There was something rare and vulnerable flickering behind his eyes, a reflection of a deeper truth that stirred within him. Thus, Ethan retraced his steps. He began by securing footage from the hospital's nearby traffic cameras, the images grainy and outdated, yet holding secrets waiting to be uncovered. Amidst the wreckage left by the storm, a single clip emerged, a fleeting 2 seconds that held a haunting mystery. It captured a blue van, its older frame battered and dented on the left side, slipping into the emergency entrance. No company name adorned its exterior, and the license plate remained obscured, shrouding the vehicle in an unsettling anonymity. He halted the video, focusing intently on the van's driver through the misty windshield. A vague silhouette emerged. A young woman's face, fierce and resolute, drenched by the relentless rain. That was more than enough. He meticulously followed the path of every bakery, flower shop, and courier service in the neighboring towns, each one a potential lead, each vehicle a clue waiting to be uncovered. Most paths twisted into shadows, offering no destination. Several vans had found new owners. Some remained operational, yet they were assigned to alternate paths. At last, a glimmer of hope emerged from a quaint bakery known as Sweet Pine, nestled in a serene town just an hour's drive from the bustling city. A blue van, the owner had revealed to Ethan during their phone call, belonged to one of their delivery girls. What drives this question? What lies beneath the surface of that single word, echoing with curiosity and uncertainty? Why? The air thickens with anticipation, as if the answer holds the key to a deeper understanding, a revelation waiting to unfold. Ethan remained silent. He slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life as he sped away into the unknown. The bakery stood modestly, its walls embraced by ivy, while the intoxicating aroma of cinnamon and freshly baked bread danced through the air, beckoning all who passed by. Within the walls, wooden tables stood like old friends, while soft music wove through the air, wrapping the space in a cozy, worn charm that beckoned one to linger. The door creaked open, and a bell echoed through the air, its sound lingering like a whisper of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Behind the counter, a woman stood with her back turned, lost in a melody as she wiped the flour from her hands, the air thick with the scent of freshly baked bread. Her braid cascaded down the back of her apron, while her sleeves were pushed up past her elbows, revealing a sense of purpose and determination. There was an undeniable allure in her stance, a quiet grace that captivated him as she moved. "Elena!" The shop owner's voice echoed from the shadows of the back room, a hint of urgency lacing her words. "Can you assist the gentleman?" The woman turned, and there she stood, sharp and clear, no longer obscured by smoke and storm. The figure from the footage, the very one Arthur had whispered about in his fevered dreams, locked eyes with Ethan as she advanced, her movements careful yet courteous. "Greetings and welcome to this moment. What can I offer you today?" He parted his lips, yet the question loomed larger than he had anticipated. Is that blue van parked outside yours?" he inquired. Her eyes widened, a moment of surprise washing over her. Indeed, for the purpose of deliveries. "Why?" He paused once more, the tension thick in the air, before inching forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that only the two of them could catch. "Did you rescue an elderly man from a blazing car 2 weeks ago, amidst the pouring rain on a treacherous mountain road?" She stood motionless, her hands suspended above the countertop, her gaze fixated on the floor, as a tightness gripped her throat, stealing her breath away. "I stood at the edge of the precipice, the wind howling around me like a restless spirit. Below, the churning waters crashed against the jagged rocks, each wave a reminder of the chaos that lay just beneath the surface. My heart raced, a drumbeat of anticipation and dread, as I peered into the abyss. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, whispering secrets of what was to come. This was a moment that would change everything, a crossroads where fate and choice intertwined. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the plunge into the unknown. She started to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "What makes you aware of that?" Ethan let out a slow, deliberate breath. "That man is my grandfather, Arthur Blackwood. That man is my grandfather, Arthur Blackwood." Elena's head jerked upward, her senses igniting with a sudden urgency. "He's still breathing?" Her voice quivered as she asked. "Indeed, it all stems from you." Her gaze locked onto his, a tempest of feelings swirling just beneath the surface of her eyes. Relief washed over her, mingling with disbelief, while fear crept in like a shadow, and guilt lingered in the corners of her mind. "I never believed he would survive," she murmured, her voice barely above a breath. He stood there, a figure shrouded in mystery, his presence commanding attention. The air around him crackled with unspoken tension, as if the very world held its breath, waiting for the next move. Shadows danced in the corners of his eyes, hinting at secrets buried deep within. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, resonating with the weight of his untold story, drawing you in, compelling you to uncover the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. The pain cuts deep. I acted out of necessity, and then you vanished from my life. She averted her gaze. It was never about being seen. Ethan edged forward, his voice dropping to a hushed whisper. Every single day he speaks your name, weaving your essence into his thoughts. He doesn't even know your name. He simply refers to you as the girl who saved his soul. Elena let out a delicate, surprised laugh that echoed in the stillness around her. He seems to have a higher opinion of my abilities than I do. I believe he knows precisely what he's saying, Ethan replied, his voice steady. After all he's witnessed in his life, I've never heard him speak about anyone like this before. Silence hung heavy between them, a palpable tension that stretched on, each heartbeat echoing in the stillness. Elena gazed at her flower-dusted hands, then lifted her eyes to meet Ethan's intense stare. I never set out to be a hero. The thought of driving past and doing nothing was unbearable. Ethan nodded slowly, understanding the weight of that moment. And that is precisely why you are one. Her gaze lingered on him, a silent examination that seemed to unravel the layers of the man standing before her, uncertainty dancing in her eyes. He stood apart, not clad in tailored suits or flanked by a crowd, but as a solitary figure, his voice resonating with sincerity and a fierce, untamed spark flickering in his eyes. Did you truly journey this far just to seek me out? I had to, he said, his voice steady yet heavy with unspoken weight. Not due to my identity, but because of your actions. For the first time since she dragged Arthur from that inferno, Elena sensed a stirring deep within her heart. Not from fear, not from fatigue, but from a sensation that was warm and profoundly unfamiliar. A presence had been felt, and a figure had arrived. Later that afternoon, Ethan stepped back into the bakery, devoid of cameras, reporters, or even a token of gratitude. Only a silent plea hung in the air. Would you have dinner with me? He asked, his voice cutting through the evening air as he stood outside Alina's delivery van, watching her pack the last box with a mix of anticipation and hope. Her gaze locked onto him, her brows knitting together in a subtle display of concern. Why? He shrugged, a subtle movement that spoke volumes. I have something to share. She paused, caught in the moment, unsure whether to truly listen. His attire was unassuming, yet every aspect of him radiated an extraordinary essence. As soon as he stepped out of the bakery, she couldn't resist the urge to search for him online. Ethan Blackwood, the formidable CEO of Carter Global Holdings, commands a fortune in the hundreds of millions. He was the type of man destined for magazine covers, not for cracked sidewalks alongside a girl in a flower-dusted apron. Yet there was a spark in his eyes, a raw honesty that disarmed her. With a single, deliberate nod, she acknowledged the unspoken connection between them, understood. In the hushed corners of a secluded diner across town, their paths converged. Not the kind adorned with pressed linens or gleaming crystal glasses, but a place with worn red booths and the inviting warmth of pie warmers by the register. Elena found herself drawn to it, a spark igniting within her. With a sense of anticipation, she placed her order for the comforting duo of grilled cheese and a steaming bowl of soup. Ethan clutched a steaming cup of black coffee in one hand, while the other held a turkey sandwich, its aroma mingling with the rich scent of the brew, creating a moment of quiet anticipation. At first, their words came in fragmented bursts. The sky loomed heavy with clouds, a foreboding backdrop to the relentless grind of daily toil. Then emerged the profound undercurrents. I lost my mom when I was 8, Elena whispered, her finger gliding slowly along the rim of her glass, as if searching for something lost in the depths of her memory. A relentless adversary, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike with devastating force. My dad's time was running out, and the shadows of fate loomed ever closer. he vanished into thin air. I navigated the turbulent waters of foster homes and group shelters, mastering the art of survival while keeping my head low, always on the lookout for the next storm. Ethan remained silent, his presence a quiet weight in the room. At the age of 15, I embarked on my journey into the world of work, washing dishes, making deliveries, whatever it takes. At times, kindness flickered in the air, but more often than not, it was just me, standing alone in the shadows of my own solitude. Her eyes flickered toward him, a moment charged with unspoken tension. That fateful night, I stumbled upon your grandfather. In that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was in desperate need of assistance, and leaving him behind was simply not an option. Ethan's voice whispered through the air, a gentle caress that beckoned attention. You became a lifeline. He rescued him from the brink. I don't want money, she said swiftly, interrupting him before he could extend the offer or seek acknowledgement. I have no use for a scholarship, a new car, or any of the typical offerings that people like you tend to provide. He lifted his hand with a delicate grace. I had no intention of offering any of that. Alina's eyes fluttered open, a moment of disbelief washing over her. Ethan's voice trembled with urgency as he spoke, a burning desire to uncover the identity of the mysterious figure who had rescued the man who had shaped his very existence. And that was it. In that fleeting instant, words eluded her grasp. No one had ever gazed at her with such intensity before, neither with admiration nor with quiet gratitude. She had always been viewed as a fleeting presence, someone easily cast aside. Yet, this man perceived something deeper. The following day, as Elena worked the dough with her hands, the sharp chime of the bell above the bakery door echoed through the warm, fragrant air. As she pivoted, anticipation flickering in her chest, her breath caught in her throat. There he stood, Arthur Blackwood. He appeared more fragile than she recalled, his skin a ghostly hue from the long road of recovery, propped up by a cane. Yet his eyes sparkled with a vibrant intensity, glistening as they locked onto hers. I told him I needed to come, Arthur said, his voice a gravelly whisper, yet resolute. I longed to gaze upon your face just one more time. Alina wiped her hands on her apron, her mind racing with disbelief. Who are you, all right? I am, he said, his voice laced with gratitude. Thanks to you. He advanced cautiously, each step deliberate, until he stood at the counter, his hand extending toward hers with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. She accepted it with trembling hands, the heat of his grip enveloping her like a comforting embrace. I don't know your story, Arthur said, his voice trembling with uncertainty. Yet I am fully aware of the sacrifices you made on my behalf. You charged into the flames for someone you barely knew. That moment will forever be etched in my memory. His eyes brimmed with tears. My life has spanned countless years, founded empires, watched friendships fade, and nurtured a tenacious grandson. He offered a faint smile in Ethan's direction. Yet no one has ever come to my rescue the way you did. The room fell into an eerie silence. All eyes were fixed on the formidable Arthur Blackwood as he fought to hold back tears, standing before the unsuspecting bakery girl. The tension in the air was palpable, a moment suspended in time as customers and staff alike bore witness to the unexpected vulnerability of a man known for his strength. Alina felt a constriction in her throat. I never intended for this to happen. Anticipation hung in the air, but I remained untouched by expectation. That's exactly why it matters, Arthur whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence, laden with urgency. Ethan approached his grandfather, his hand resting firmly on the old man's shoulder, a silent bond of strength and support between them. She's the reason I'm still your grandson today, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. She must understand that she truly belongs, regardless of the world from which she emerged. Elena glanced back and forth, her heart a tempest of emotions. For years, she had lingered in the shadows of society, a quiet specter, believing that her acts of kindness would fade into the void, unnoticed and unacknowledged. Yet today, her kindness reverberated through the air. For the first time, the haunting echo had drawn someone back to her, weaving a thread of connection through the shadows. The days that followed unfolded with unexpected moments that left Elena breathless. Ethan started appearing at the bakery with increasing frequency, no longer clad in suits or arriving in chauffeured cars, but instead dressed in casual jeans and rolled-up sleeves, a stark contrast to his former self. Initially, she dismissed it as mere coincidence, then as a gesture of politeness. Yet, the way he lingered, inquired about her van, and offered to assist with the deliveries suggested a different story altogether. He never let it feel like an act of charity. "Your van's front left tire is almost bald," he remarked one morning, crouching beside the vehicle while she loaded a tray of muffins, the scent of fresh pastries hanging in the air. The rain slicked the pavement, transforming the road into a treacherous mirror, where a single misstep could send you spiraling out of control. "I know," Elena muttered, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the weight of her words could shatter the fragile silence. She was grasping at the fleeting moments, desperate to stretch them into another week or two, clinging to the hope that time would bend to her will. The following day, he arrived with a replacement. Nothing extravagant, no gleaming new car, just a reliable, robust tire that he had personally purchased, delivered, and installed with his own hands. I watched a tutorial where he recounted the moment she gazed at him, utterly bewildered. "Don't gaze at me as if I'm powerless without the confines of a boardroom." And then the deliveries arrived, shrouded in mystery. He set off on his ride, declaring it a much-needed escape from the relentless corporate circus. Yet, deep down, Elena understood the truth. He strained to hear, to all that exists. She felt a deep ache for her mom as she stood in the kitchen, the sweet aroma of apple pies filling the air, each slice of nostalgia cutting deeper than the last. She wandered through thrift stores, her fingers brushing against the worn edges of old postcards, each one a portal to a life she had never lived, igniting her imagination with stories untold. She continued to tread the familiar park path every Sunday afternoon, an unexplainable pull guiding her steps, as if the very ground beneath her held secrets waiting to be uncovered. He remained silent, never scoffing or brushing aside her words, instead absorbing every syllable with an intensity that enveloped her, making her feel as though she were the sole inhabitant of the universe. On a Thursday morning, as the city bustled with its usual rhythm, Elena's eyes caught a glimpse of a figure huddled beneath a bridge. The person appeared frail, drenched and trembling, a stark contrast to the vibrant life around them. An elderly woman shivered beneath a makeshift shelter, her weary eyes darting up as Elena approached. "Wait here," Elena instructed Ethan, her hands swiftly reaching for the extra loaf of bread and a bottle of warm tea resting in the passenger seat. "Elena," he began, his voice low and urgent. "I'll be quick." With urgency in her movements, she hurried to the ground, kneeling as she extended the food, her voice a soothing whisper and her hands tenderly outstretched. The woman recoiled momentarily, but then succumbed to a torrent of tears. Ethan's gaze was fixed intently from the confines of the van. In the absence of cameras and the echo of applause, a profound stillness envelops the scene, revealing the unvarnished essence of humanity. In that fleeting moment, as he observed Elena huddled next to a stranger in the biting cold, her whispers of comfort flowing with the same gentle warmth she had once bestowed upon his grandfather, a profound transformation stirred within him. One profound transformation stirred within him. He had encountered women in heels that commanded the room, their words laced with authority, each practiced smile a calculated move in a game of dominance. Yet Elena navigated the world with a silent bravery, a strength that spoke volumes without uttering a word. As twilight descended, casting a golden hue over the ivy-clad buildings, Ethan and Elena found themselves perched on a weathered bench outside the bakery, cradling paper cups filled with lukewarm tea, the world around them fading into a soft blur. "Is that something you do every time?" he inquired. "What should I do?" She shrugged, a nonchalant gesture that belied the weight of her words. "Help everyone like that," she said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "I've experienced the suffocating weight of invisibility, the biting chill of hunger gnawing at my insides, and the paralyzing grip of fear that shadows every step I take." He nodded, his silence stretching like a taut wire, heavy with unspoken thoughts. "You make the world softer," he finally confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena's gaze locked onto him, her surprise palpable in the air between them. "You don't merely observe people," he pressed on. "You sense their anguish, a heavy weight that you bear with quiet strength, refusing to let it shatter your spirit," she said with a soft smile. Such words rarely escape the lips of the ordinary. "I'm not like most people," Ethan replied, his gaze locking onto hers with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "And I doubt you believe that as well." A strange warmth throbbed in her chest, mirrored in his, igniting an uncharted connection between them. They remained apart, their bodies a breath away, yet the air crackled with an unspoken connection, a bond that transcended the need for touch or kiss. For love often comes quietly, without the grand spectacle of fireworks. At times, it descends quietly, weaving through afternoons adorned with blossoms, in the unspoken connections exchanged over delicate paper teacups, and in the piercing gaze that holds you captive, as if you've been truly seen for the very first time. The storm crept in silently, without a hint of thunder. It arrived silently, a solitary image slipping into the vast expanse of the internet. Elena emerged from the bakery, a delicate flower adorning her apron, while Ethan stood beside her, his hand poised on the door, holding it open with a gentle smile. A hazy image, yet it holds promise. Just enough to ignite the whispers, the chaos, the unstoppable blaze across the digital landscape. A mysterious girl emerges from the shadows, her actions forever altering the fate of a billionaire heir's grandfather. From the warmth of freshly baked bread to the sleek, polished surfaces of boardrooms, who is she beneath it all? Climbing the ladder of ambition, one secret at a time. In mere hours, the fabric of Elena's tranquil existence began to fray, revealing a chaos she never anticipated. Reporters lay in wait outside the bakery, their cameras glued to the glass, eager for a glimpse of the unfolding drama within. The relentless paparazzi trailed her van during delivery runs, their shouts piercing the air with questions that left her speechless. Online commenters unleashed a relentless barrage on her photos, unearthing the shadows of her past, the haunting memories of her childhood spent in the foster system, and the echoes of her long-forgotten high school blog. The headlines grew chillier, their sharp edges slicing through the air. A past shrouded in tragedy, or perhaps one crafted for convenience. Pure-hearted seraph or cunning ascendant. She withdrew from the digital world, yet the bakery staff, with their misguided intentions, couldn't resist revealing the darkest truths, believing she had to be informed. One article boldly accused her of weaving a false narrative, asserting that Arthur Blackwood had already summoned emergency services, and she was merely the first to arrive at the chaotic scene. It shattered her. One fateful night, after serving a tray of freshly baked scones, she found herself alone in her van, parked in the dimly lit grocery store lot. Tears streamed down her face, each sob resonating deep within her chest, leaving her breathless and aching. The kindness she had once offered without hesitation, now twisted into a weapon aimed at her heart. Her newfound peace lay in ruins. Silence enveloped the air as she let Ethan's calls go unanswered. She was unable to do it. Not out of blame, but from the unbearable weight of knowing she could be the reason his name was splashed across the tabloids. She was not one of them. She was unlike anyone he had ever known. And so, she made the fateful choice to walk away. A single suitcase, a solitary ticket, destined for a town shrouded in mystery, 3 states distant. A weathered note clung to the bakery fridge, its edges curling with age, whispering secrets of the past. "Gratitude fills my heart for all that you have done. Convey my deepest apologies to Ethan." Yet, Elena stood frozen, her heart racing, as the bus pulled away without her. As dawn broke, her name flickered to life on every screen across the nation, igniting a firestorm of intrigue and speculation. But this time, it wasn't the result of a smear campaign. This time, it was because Ethan Blackwood had come to a sudden halt, his breath ragged and the weight of the world pressing down on him. He stood on the press conference stage, isolated yet surrounded, facing a sea of cameras, a throng of reporters, and the millions watching intently from their homes. He stood there, collar open, the absence of a tie adding an air of defiance to his presence, unprotected, only the raw, unfiltered truth. "I've stayed quiet long enough," he declared into the microphone, his voice slicing through the silence like a knife. "And I will no longer allow silence to shield cruelty from the light of truth. Flashbulbs exploded into brilliance. Reporters edged closer, their curiosity palpable. "Her name is Elena Carter," Ethan continued, his voice low and filled with intrigue. "In a moment of desperation, she became the beacon of hope that saved my grandfather's life when all others had turned away. With flames licking at her heels, she pulled him from the wreckage of the burning car, adrenaline surging through her veins as she fought against the heat and smoke. She plunged into danger, her heart racing, never once seeking a reward for her bravery. She craved something far more elusive than mere wealth." She averted her gaze, seeking refuge in the shadows, while he hesitated, caught in the tension of the moment. "And now, because my heart is entwined with hers, you're casting her as if she's guilty of some unforgivable sin." A palpable silence enveloped the crowd. I refused to let that go unchallenged. The sound of cameras snapping echoed around me. Anticipation hung thick in the air as the crowd held its breath. "She doesn't need to belong to my world," Ethan declared, his voice unwavering, his gaze piercing. "For I have made the choice to dwell within her world." Gasps echoed through the room, a wave of shock sweeping over the gathered crowd. He insisted she was no opportunist. She embodies selflessness and compassion, a genuine spirit unlike any I've ever encountered, and I stand tall in my love for her. In that fleeting instant, time itself came to a standstill. "Immorty, tua, or war for her, Orn," then erupted the applause. Not from all, but certainly from many. Just the spark needed to shift the balance. As darkness fell, the articles took on a new, haunting resonance. The headlines dulled, losing their sharp edge. In a world where fortunes are made and dreams are baked, the paths of a billionaire and a humble baker intertwine, setting the stage for a tale of ambition, passion, and unexpected connections, a love that transcends the stories told. Perhaps we misjudged her entirely. As Elena lingered in the dimly lit motel room, isolated miles from town, the shrill ring of her phone pierced the silence once more. With hands that trembled like leaves in a storm, she reached for it. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling as Ethan's echoed through the silence. "For love," he declared, "resonates with a power that drowns out deceit." For the first time in days, a flicker of hope ignited within her, and she dared to believe. Perhaps it was. Behind Arthur Blackwood's countryside home, the garden lay in wait, an unsuspecting backdrop for a moment that would forever change lives. Once, it was merely a patch of green beyond a weathered stone patio, tangled in wild ivy and adorned with a handful of crooked rose bushes that chose to bloom on their own whims. Yet, a year had slipped by since a girl adorned with blossoms on her cheeks and a blaze in her spirit stepped into their world. And now, beneath the gentle embrace of shimmering lights and drifting paper lanterns, it had transformed into hallowed ground. The chairs stood in disarray, an eclectic collection scavenged from the homes of neighbors, each one telling a silent story of its own. The altar stood as a testament to Arthur's unwavering determination, crafted by his own hands despite the protests of his aching knees. But what of the bride? She donned no extravagant gown, no veil that cost a fortune, but instead a flowing ivory dress discovered in a quaint vintage shop. It had been lovingly altered by hand, each stitch a testament to the memories of her roots, woven with a care that spoke of her journey. Elena stood beneath the arch, her hair cascading back, adorned with fresh jasmine that whispered secrets of the night. Her hands quivered ever so slightly as she cradled the bouquet of wildflowers, freshly gathered by Ethan that very morning. "Whoa, oh," he chuckled, a glint of mischief in his eyes, insisting that the finest flowers never arrive in trucks. Ethan faced her, clad in a light gray suit that exuded simplicity and timeless elegance. His gaze was locked onto her, unwavering and intense. In their depths lay the same awe that had gripped him on the day she rescued his grandfather from the fiery wreckage. The gathering was intimate, a circle of close friends, the dedicated bakery staff, and a handful of strangers who had woven themselves into the fabric of family through the shared journey that Elena and Ethan had crafted together. In the front row, a tiny girl, barely 5 years old, perched with her legs swinging beneath her seat, a delicate flower crown teetering over her tousled curl. With a teddy bear tightly held in her arms, she gazed upward, her eyes wide with awe, embodying pure wonder. In the shadows of the past, there was a name that echoed through the corridors of time. Clara. Nearly 8 months ago, they stumbled upon her, abandoned, injured, and gripped by terror. After a car crash on a desolate stretch of road, Elena stepped into the hospital, her heart heavy with purpose. This visit was part of her commitment to the newly launched Road Light Foundation, an initiative she had co-founded to bring hope and support to traffic accident victims in isolated communities. Each moment felt charged with the weight of their stories, and she was determined to make a difference. Elena had lingered by the little girl's side for hours, weaving tales that danced in the air, gently brushing away her tears, and ultimately lulling her into a peaceful slumber with soft, soothing songs. The adoption unfolded unexpectedly, yet Elena had come to realize that love seldom adhered to a plan. As the ceremony unfolded, a surge of energy coursed through Clara, compelling her to break free from her chair and dash toward the altar. With a swift motion, Ethan lowered himself, his arms outstretched, ready to embrace her as she fell. "Daddy," she whispered, her fingers gripping his collar tightly. "Are you going to marry Mommy now?" He let out a soft chuckle, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "That is precisely what I am undertaking." The crowd erupted in soft laughter as he surrendered her into Elena's waiting embrace. In that fleeting moment, the bride and groom stood united, cradling the child who had woven the last thread into the intricate tapestry of their improbable, extraordinary love. The officiant cleared his throat, a subtle yet commanding gesture that drew the attention of all present. "Are we ready to embark on this journey?" Their vows echoed with a profound simplicity. Elena's voice, unwavering even as tears glistened in her eyes, broke the silence. "You found me when I didn't even know I was worth being found." You gazed past the headlines, piercing through the veil of fear. Your gaze locked onto mine, and from that moment I was yours forever. Ethan's voice trembled with raw emotion as he replied, "You revealed to me a strength forged not in boardrooms or classrooms, but in the depths of the human spirit. Your love was a boundless treasure, given freely, and now I am determined to dedicate my life to deserving that precious gift." As the guests erupted in cheers, claps, and even tears, they shared a kiss that seemed to suspend time itself. Arthur brushed away a tear that lingered at the edge of his eye, his cane standing silently beside him, a witness to his unspoken sorrow. As the couple faced the throng, fingers intertwined, Clara danced joyfully between them. Arthur leaned closer to his sister, his voice barely a whisper. He found her. She cast her gaze across the room. "Discovered whom?" "My angel," he whispered, his voice a soft caress in the dim light. "The one who rescued me from the flames, the one who restored purpose to my existence, and now she has become his angel as well." As twilight descended, the backyard was bathed in a warm, golden glow, the sun sinking slowly beneath the horizon, casting long shadows and igniting the sky with hues of orange and pink. Tables overflowed with the rich aromas of home-cooked food, each dish a testament to love and tradition. Guests swayed and twirled, lost in the rhythm emanating from a weathered speaker, its sound a haunting echo of the past. Children darted after shimmering bubbles, laughter echoing in the air, while Elena, barefoot and free, twirled on the lush grass. She clasped Clara's hands tightly, spinning her in joyful circles, lost in the magic of the moment. Ethan paused, his gaze fixed on them, his heart swelling as he took in the sight of his girls. He reflected on their journey, from the charred remains of a vehicle, on a rain-soaked mountain road to this moment, where laughter danced in the air like a sacred melody. Elena locked eyes with him, her cheeks aflame, as she glided over, breathless from the rhythm of the dance. She leaned her head against his chest, her voice barely a whisper. "I never imagined this could be my life." He clutched her closer, as if the world around them could shatter at any moment. "The truth is, the world has deceived you." It whispered doubts into your heart, convincing you that joy was a distant dream. Yet deep down, you were always deserving of it. From afar, Arthur's smile radiated warmth as he lifted his glass, a silent toast directed towards them. To Alina, he whispered to himself, the woman who had rescued him and then saved another. As twilight deepened and stars began to claim the sky, the Carter Garden transformed into a realm of eternity, not forged by riches or legacy, but by a love that ignited like fire, endured through tempests, and was chosen time and again, in the hush of silence amidst the chaos and ultimately in the embrace of peace. And there, beneath the ancient oak tree, the girl who had once slipped away into the shadows without a name had transformed into a wife, a mother, and a co-founder of a mission that touched souls far beyond the cataclysm that had ignited it all. Where shadows of smoke and remnants of wreckage had once loomed, a brilliant light now pierced through the darkness, and in the place where mere survival had once reigned, a family now thrived. We are grateful for your presence on this profound journey filled with courage, empathy, and the surprises of love that await around every corner. As she navigated the winding roads, the weight of the old man's frail body in the passenger seat felt heavier than the car itself. She had offered him a ride to the hospital, a simple favor, unaware that fate had intertwined their lives in ways she could never have imagined. The air was thick with unspoken stories, and the tension crackled like electricity, hinting at the secrets that lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. A CEO would return, determined to find her once more. It serves as a powerful reminder that even the tiniest gestures of kindness can ignite profound transformations, not only in the lives we impact, but also within our own souls. From the tumultuous roadside to a radiant garden, Elena revealed that true heroism often whispers, selflessly blooming from the depths of love. Ethan demonstrated that when we embrace individuals for their true selves, rather than their origins, remarkable things can flourish. If this tale stirred something deep within you, brought a smile to your face, or rekindled your belief in the goodness that still exists in our world, we welcome you to become part of our expanding family of hearts and narratives. Join soul-stirring stories for captivating narratives that heal, ignite your spirit, and linger in your heart long after the final scene fades away. A tale that will capture your heart and imagination is just around the corner. Come, let us journey there side by side.